Inside the Story with Anderson Cooper.
This week on 60 Minutes, I'm profiling Tony Bennett and his efforts to get back on stage suffering from Alzheimer's. He wanted to get back to work and wanted to go on stage. With his doctor's blessing and his family's help, they booked 2 nights at Radio City with Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett.
Here's Anderson Cooper.
Hey, Tony,
Hi.
how you doing? Nice to see you.
Tony has a hard time holding a conversation. You know, his Alzheimer's has really progressed.
How did you feel about the concert the other night?
I don't know what you mean.
I saw you at Radio City. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you very much.
So you have to kind of adjust to that and realize that, you know, Tony's not going to be able to tell his own story in his own words. Susan, Tony's wife, does a lot of the talking for him.
He recognizes me, thank goodness, his children. You know, we are blessed in a lot of ways. He's very sweet. He doesn't know he has it.
He doesn't know he has Alzheimer's.
I'm old-fashioned. I love the moonlight. I love old-fashioned things. It's a pretty good song, isn't it? So if I'm old-fashioned, I'm old-fashioned.
In 1995, Ed Bradley interviewed Tony Bennett for a piece they called The Crooner, and Tony was 68 years old at the time.
For me to make everybody forget their problems for an hour, it feels like a very noble job to me. You know, it's just, I try and make people feel good.
How you doing, handsome?
Okay.
And obviously, it's a very different Tony now. And, you know, when we got there, we sat down with him, and he was looking through some old scrapbooks. You know, we asked him about some of the pictures in the scrapbooks, and it was very clear that Tony could engage if you asked him a direct question, like, who's this?
You remember that picture?
That's my mom.
That's your mom.
But he didn't really necessarily have a memory of the event that the photo was of. It was at first a little awkward, as as with anybody when you're dealing with somebody who has a form of dementia, to figure out what's the best way to talk to them and what is the best way to connect with them and communicate with them. Does Tony know his own name?
Yes, he does, very much so, because he's a performer.
Dr. Gayatri Devi is Tony's neurologist, and she diagnosed him. So he knows he's Tony Bennett.
He knows he's Tony Bennett, and he knows how to behave like Tony Bennett. So when he's in the office and if there's a fan who says, "Oh my God, it's you, Tony Bennett," then he gets all, he says, "Well, thank you." And so he changes in that moment. You can see him change and become Tony Bennett, the performer.
And because he's been Tony Bennett, the performer, his whole life.
Right. And so that's an area of the brain that's just so an innately hardwired part of his brain. And it's also an area of his brain that gives him real meaning and purpose in his life. And it's imbued with emotion. I mean, that's the other thing about music that sets it apart, is that it is a part of the brain that's very emotional. Music is housed in different parts of the brain, including parts of the brain that deal with emotion, and therefore it's easy to be moved by it